My name is Melly. Just recently, I've become a big fan of buying and selling sites like Etsy and Depop. If you don't know, these are both online platforms where people like myself can buy and sell clothing items and accessories. One thing I've seen on there in particular that I've always been interested in, and has actually even inspired me to start selling it on my own, is t-shirts and backpacks with embroidered flowers on them. I've always thought these items were really unique, but there was one thing that was stopping me from buying them, and that was that they came with a pretty hefty price tag. However, I've always been pretty crafty, and I already knew how to sew, so I figured, how hard can it be to embroider my own flowers? What I learned is that it's really easy, really fast, and I honestly think anybody can do it with the right tools. Once I first started learning to embroider, I learned that it's basically the same thing as sewing, which is actually really easy if you don't know how to do it already. I've been sewing for years, and I honestly think anyone can learn. So today I'm going to teach you all how to make your own personalized embroidered clothing items. So the first thing you want to do is gather your materials. All you're going to need is a needle, 2 colors of thread, one for the stem and one for the leaves, whatever you want to embroider on, like a backpack, t-shirt, or anything like that, and a pair of scissors. So the first step you want to take is you want to make sure that you thread your needle. This one here is already threaded, but just to explain to you how I did this, you cut a long piece of spool off of your thread, and then you lick the end of it, or dip it in water if that's easier, and then it'll slide through this little needle hole no problem. Then once you've pulled it through, you want to hold both ends of the thread like this between your fingers with the needle dangling in the middle, and then it's time to tie your knot. The easiest way to do this, and I don't know why it works, is to lick your pointer finger and your thumb, wrap both ends of the thread around your pointer finger together, slide the thread off your pointer with your thumb, and pull. I find this method much easier than the traditional way of tying knots, especially when you're working with tiny flimsy thread. So once you do that, you want to do it maybe about 5 or 6 more times until you have a nice big knot like this one. If your knot's too small, it's going to pull right through the fabric while you're sewing, and you don't want that because you want your creations to last for a long time. So once you have your needle threaded, it's time to begin sewing. You want to make sure you start your stitches from the inside or back of whatever you're embroidering so the big knot you just made won't be visible. So you poke the needle through the fabric wherever you want to start your stem, and then you make your first stitch. How big you make your stitches is totally up to you and depends on personal preference. The bigger you make your stitches, the faster you'll be able to finish, but the smaller you make them, the more detail you'll be able to add, so it's all up to you. Once you decide how big you want your stitches, you just stick the needle back through and pull. I recommend going over each stitch at least a few times just to make sure that they hold nice and tight, and it also makes them a little bit more noticeable. Then once you've done that, you can begin your second stitch. I recommend making the stitches very close together when you're making things like flowers because you want the end result to be a little bit more recognizable. So you want to stick the needle back through pretty close to the end of your first stitch, pull, and then make your second stitch the exact same way. You want to try to make your stitches about the same size, and you want them to be parallel in the direction that you want your flower stem to go. Then once you've done that, you can go over your second stitch a few times, and then just continue the process until your flower stem is as long as you want it. Once you're happy with the length of your stem, then you can go over the last stitch a couple extra times just to make sure it holds nice and tight. Then you want to make sure your needle and thread are sticking out of the back or inside of the fabric. You want to cut the thread right at the needle so you have 2 long tails to work with, and then you want to tie a knot right against the fabric. You want to be careful not to tie it too tight or the fabric's going to be warped and wrinkled. So the best way to avoid this is just make sure your flower looks nice and smooth and flat like this before you tie your knot. And then your flower stem is done. The flower stem is definitely the most time-consuming part. So after that, you can rethread your needle with whatever color you want to use for your petals using the exact same techniques as before. Then, as you can see with this flower, I made several petals on each side, and each one is only about 1 or 2 stitches, which allowed me to finish in about 10 minutes. I chose to make a reed type flower because I think it's the easiest to learn, but the possibilities are endless. So as you can see, this only took me about 5 minutes to explain to you, and the entire process only takes about 15 minutes to complete. That's why this is a great way to make a quick, inexpensive gift for a loved one if you're stuck for a present idea. The best part about making your own flowers is that everything you make is unique and original and no one else will have it. Even if flowers aren't really your thing, knowing how to embroider flowers onto dresses, backpacks, shirts, and other things is a great way to make unique, personalized items for loved ones that they'll adore because you made it with your own 2 hands. In conclusion, embroidery is an easy, inexpensive, quick way to make fun, unique items for yourself or personalized gifts for loved ones.